Okay, let's talk about that knot you get in your stomach. You know the one. It shows up right when you know you have to say no. It's such a tiny word, right? But for so many of us, it's just one of the absolute hardest things to say out loud. So, I want you to think about the last time you had to turn something down. Maybe it was an invitation, maybe a request from a coworker. You knew you had to do it. You had to set that boundary. But what happened right after?
I bet this sounds familiar. You didn't just say, hey, sorry, I can't make it. Oh no, it became a whole novel. You probably laid out your entire schedule for the week, you said sorry about 3 different times, and then you launched into this super detailed excuse about your health, or your family, or some crazy work deadline. It was practically a legal brief justifying your no.
And when you finally hit send, you didn't feel relieved, did ya? Nah, you just felt drained, kind of small. And then that wave of anxiety hits, and your brain just starts spinning. Was that excuse good enough? Did they even believe me? And of course, the big one, are they mad at me now? It's this whole exhausting emotional tax we pay for just trying to say no.
So, what is going on here? Why do we build this fortress of excuses around such a simple little word? Well, what's so fascinating is that this habit, this over-explaining, can come from 2 totally different places in our brains. It's really a tale of 2 minds at work.
So on one hand, for some neurodivergent folks, especially those with ADHD or autistic brains, this is something called bottom-up processing. For them, details aren't just extra fluff. They're like the building blocks of truth. Giving all that context is how they communicate the reality of the situation. But for many, many others, it comes from a totally different place. It's actually a trauma response, and it's called fawning.
Fawning is, at its core, a survival strategy. It's this deep instinctual response where you try to please someone else just to avoid conflict. You become a people pleaser, you over-explain, you basically abandon your own boundaries, all to try and de-escalate what feels like a threat and keep the other person happy. And you usually do it at your own expense.
And this right here leads us to a really powerful way to reframe what's happening. When you're typing out that massive text message, that 3-paragraph no, what are you actually trying to say? Let that one sink in for a second. You think you're just communicating information, giving someone all the important context. But what's really happening is much deeper. You are not just sharing facts. You are begging for their permission to have your own boundary. You're asking them, without saying it, is my reason good enough for you? Can I please say no?
Just recognizing that, just seeing it for what it is the first huge step to changing it. This is where we make the shift from begging for permission to instead beginning to reclaim our own space. It's all about taking your power back. Seriously, the first thing to do is to just stop begging, to catch yourself when you're building a whole legal case to defend your own needs and just decide not to. Your no doesn't need a defense attorney. It's valid all by itself. And what do you do instead of begging? You start reclaiming. You start reclaiming your time, your energy, and your absolute right to have boundaries without needing anyone else to sign off on them. It's a huge shift from asking for permission to simply owning your decision. So I'll just leave you with this question to chew on. What would actually happen? I mean, really happen in your life, in your relationships, in your own head, if you started to treat the word no not like it's the start of a negotiation, but like it's a complete sentence? Something to think about. You know that feeling, right? You say no to something and then bam, this instant overwhelming urge to explain exactly why. You get that knot in your stomach as you're typing out a whole novel, just trying to justify your decision. You're just hoping the other person gets it and, let's be real, hoping they're not mad at you. It's a feeling we all know way too well.
Okay, let's really get into this. Take a second and actually think about it. The last time you had to say no, was it a simple, clean, sorry I can't make it? Or did you end up writing a 3-paragraph essay detailing your entire schedule, apologizing over and over, and maybe even tossing in a little white lie just to cushion the blow? Be honest.
And this is what happens, right? You finally hit send, but instead of feeling relieved, you're just hit with this wave of anxiety. You're sitting there, rereading your own message, thinking, oh God, was that believable? Did I say too much? Are they mad at me now? It totally defeats the whole point of setting a boundary in the first place. So why on earth do we do this to ourselves? We tell ourselves we're just being polite, but what's really happening is we're walking straight into what's called the justification trap.
And trust me, it's a trap that can seriously, seriously backfire. Here's the hard truth, and it might sting a little. The moment you start offering these long, unasked-for explanations for your no, you're subconsciously signaling submission. It's like you're saying, my decision isn't valid on its own. It needs your stamp of approval to be real. The person who doesn't need to explain, they hold the power in that dynamic. This brings us to a really useful acronym, the J.A.D. trap. It stands for justify, argue, defend, and explain. These are the 4 things you have to avoid when you're setting a boundary. The second you start doing any of them, you've basically handed over your power. You've opened the door for a negotiation on something that was never supposed to be up for debate. And here's the absolute key takeaway. You think you're providing clarity, but you're not. You're handing the other person ammunition. Think about it. You say, I can't come to the party because I have to clean my house. A pushy person doesn't hear your boundary. They just hear a problem that they can solve for you. They'll just say, oh, don't worry about it, just clean tomorrow. And now you're trapped. So if this whole thing is so counterproductive, why is it such a powerful impulse for so many of us? Well, to get that, we need to dig a little deeper. We have to go from the social what to the psychological why. For a lot of people, this isn't just some bad habit. It's actually a trauma response called fawning. It's this deep-seated instinct that just kicks in where you try to appease someone, make them happy, de-escalate everything, all because you're trying to avoid conflict or disapproval. It's a survival mechanism, pure and simple.
Wow, this quote just nails it, doesn't it? When you're in that fawning mode, your super detailed explanation isn't actually about sharing information. It's a subconscious plea. You're pretty much asking, is it okay for me to have this need? Please, can I have your permission to say no?
Okay, but it is really, really important to add a layer of nuance here. Not all over-explaining is a trauma response, and we have to understand the difference. It's a crucial distinction. So for some folks, especially those who are neurodivergent, like with ADHD or autism, over-explaining can just be their cognitive style. It's called bottom-up processing. Their goal isn't to appease you, their goal is to get to the truth and achieve total clarity. For them, all those details are the building blocks you need to understand the main point. The key difference here is the intent. Are you trying to find safety? Are you trying to find clarity? So understanding all of that brings us to the most important question. What do we do now? How do we actually shift out of this pattern of asking for permission and into a place of confident declaration? Honestly, it all comes down to this one powerful shift in your mindset. Your boundary, your simple no, is not a request waiting for someone to approve it. It's not the opening bid in a negotiation. It is a statement, a fact. Remember, no is a complete sentence. Your needs are valid all by themselves, no justification required, period. So I want to leave you with this one question to take with you. The next time you catch yourself typing out that long-winded explanation after saying no, just pause and ask yourself, what am I really asking for right now? Am I just sharing some info, or am I actually asking for permission to take up my own space? The answer to that question might just change everything. You know that feeling, right? That little knot that tightens in your stomach just before you have to tell someone no? That feeling that a simple no is, well, it's just not going to be enough? Today we're going to untangle that exact feeling. We're going to find out why the most powerful answer you can give is often the shortest one. All right, let's get into it. Okay, first things first. Let's just paint a picture here. One that might feel a little too real. It's all about that moment when you have to turn down a request or an invitation. No, seriously, take a second and think about it. Did you just say, sorry, can't make it, and then just move on with your day? Or did you find yourself immediately typing out this long, winding story explaining exactly why? Yeah. Does this look a little familiar? It's that classic impulse, isn't it? Following up a simple no with a whole novel. You're apologizing over and over. You're listing every possible excuse, maybe even making up a small crisis just to soften the blow. And what happens after you hit send on that masterpiece of an excuse? You don't feel relieved. Not at all. You just feel drained, kind of small. And now you're trapped in this anxiety loop wondering, do they believe me? Are they mad at me now? It's the worst. So what's really going on here? Turns out there's a really deep reason we do this. And you know what? Understanding the why is the absolute first step to actually changing the behavior and getting your space back. Now, it is so important to get this distinction right. For some people, especially those with ADHD or autistic brains, over-explaining is just how they process the world. It's called bottom-up processing. The details are literally the building blocks of their truth. But for so many of us, it's something else entirely. It's a trauma response called fawning. And this is the part that changes everything. When you're fawning, you're not actually communicating information. You are pleading. You're turning your no into a negotiation, basically asking for permission to have a boundary in the first place. And that, right there, brings us to the biggest fear, doesn't it? It's the one thing that keeps us stuck in this loop. We think if I just say no without all the excuses, won't people think I'm selfish or cold or just a jerk? Well, what if we could just completely reframe that word? Let's take selfish and turn it into something powerful. Let's call it strategic selfishness. Honestly, this one little shift in perspective is a total game changer. To understand this, let's grab a really powerful metaphor. This is going to help us build a whole new toolkit for setting boundaries that actually feels good, not guilty. I mean, you've heard this on every single flight you've ever been on. And it's not a selfish rule, is it? It's a rule of survival. Because if you pass out from lack of oxygen, you are zero help to anyone. That right there, that is the heart of strategic selfishness. So let's break it down into 2 simple rules for life. Number 1, protecting your own energy is not a rejection of other people. It's an act of self-preservation. And number 2, preserving yourself isn't just a nice idea. It is a fundamental requirement if you want to be of service to anyone in any meaningful way. And this goes so deep. Think about it. Your self-respect is basically the reputation that you have with yourself. And every single time you break a promise you made to yourself, a promise to rest, a promise to not overcommit, all to please somebody else, you chip away at that reputation. You're literally teaching your own brain that your needs just don't matter. Okay, so let's look at one final and I think really beautiful way to see your identity and your energy, especially in this crazy high-speed world we're all living in. If you're someone who observes and feels things really deeply, you have to understand that you do not need to justify your existence. Think of yourself as an orchid. You're beautiful, you're resilient, but you absolutely need the right environment to truly thrive. And this metaphor just brings it all home so perfectly. Your simple, clean, unapologetic no isn't some aggressive weapon. It's not a cold wall. It is the glass of your greenhouse. It's the boundary that protects your fragile, precious energy from the outside world so you have the space you need to actually grow. So the question I really want you to take with you isn't just how can I say no more? It's something deeper. It's how will I protect my greenhouse this week? It's a small shift in how you ask the question, but trust me, it changes everything.
You know, there's this tiny little piece of punctuation that holds a massive, and I mean massive amount of power. Today we're going to talk about how to use the period not just to end a sentence, but to end that whole exhausting cycle of over-explaining everything. It's about starting to reclaim your time, your energy, and yeah, your self-respect.
Just for a second, think back. The last time you had to say no to somebody, how did you really feel right after? Was it a clean, simple feeling of relief? Or was it something heavier? Maybe a wave of anxiety, a little bit of guilt, a whole lot of second-guessing.
Because let's be honest, for so many of us, it looks exactly like this. A simple no turns into a 3-paragraph essay on why we can't do something. We lay out our entire schedule, we say I'm so sorry about 1,000,000 times, and we come up with the most detailed, bulletproof excuse. And then, when we finally hit send, we don't feel free. We feel kind of small, anxious, and we're just wondering if they're mad at us now.
Well, that feeling, that whole pattern, it has a name, and there's a really good reason for it. We're calling it the exhausting no. It's that awful, gut-wrenching anxiety that comes right after what should be a simple, healthy act of setting a boundary. And the reason it feels so bad is because of what's really going on underneath it all.
This right here, this is the absolute heart of the problem. When you over-explain your no, you're not actually just communicating information. You are, without even realizing it, begging for permission to have that boundary in the first place. You're basically saying, here are all my reasons, please tell me it's okay for me to say no. And in that moment, you're just handing over all your power.
So in psychology, there's actually a term for this. It's called fawning, and it's considered a trauma response, right up there with fight, flight, and freeze. It's this deep-seated instinct to please someone, to appease them, to avoid any kind of conflict. When you're typing out that super long text message, you're fawning. You're trying to manage their emotions so you can keep yourself safe from their disappointment or their anger.
Okay, but we need to be really clear about something here. This is a crucial distinction. For some people, especially those with ADHD or autistic brains, giving a lot of detail isn't about fear. It's just about how their brain is wired. It's something called bottom-up processing, where all the little details are the building blocks they use to explain the truth. That is fundamentally different from fawning, which is all about avoiding conflict. It's so important to know the difference.
So, if you recognize yourself in that fawning response, how do you stop it? How do you stop begging for permission and just start owning your own decisions? Well, the tool is incredibly simple, but trust me, it is profoundly effective. It's what we're calling the power of the period. Just look at this sentence. I can't make it on Friday. And notice what comes after? Nothing, just a period. That's a complete statement. It's polite, it's super clear, and it's final. It doesn't invite a debate, it's not apologizing for anything, and it's definitely not asking for approval. It just states a fact.
Here's another perfect example. No, thank you. Just 2 simple words, followed by that same powerful period. This little phrase is a complete, totally respectful boundary. You can use it in almost any situation, and it just beautifully shows that your no doesn't need a defense team. It's enough all by itself.
Okay, so today, I have a challenge for you. The very next time you need to set a boundary, I want you to try this. Step 1, state it in one clean sentence. Step 2, and this is the hardest part, stop right before you say the word because. Then step 3, don't fill the silence that follows. Your anxiety is going to scream at you to make an excuse. Don't do it. And 4, just sit in that uncomfortable silence, because that space, that's where your self-respect starts to grow. You see, mastering this isn't just about changing how you send a text message. It's about fundamentally shifting how you see yourself. It's like upgrading your entire internal operating system, from one that runs on anxiety to one that runs on autonomy. This is how you go from being the performer to becoming the observer.
Think about it this way. On one side, you've got the performer. They're always on stage, always tap dancing for everyone's approval. They feel like a commodity, like their value depends on making other people happy. And it is absolutely exhausting. But on the other side, you have the observer. The observer is an autonomous system. They speak with a quiet finality that comes from a deep place of self-respect. They're grounded, not anxious.
So, at the end of the day, it's a choice. And yeah, it's gonna feel uncomfortable at first, for sure. But the real question is right here. Are you ready to make that shift? Are you ready to stop being a commodity and start being an autonomous system?
I want you to remember this simple, powerful truth. Your no is enough. It doesn't need an excuse to be valid. It's valid just because you said it. If you're ready to make this shift, we're here to explore a lot more ideas just like this one. Be the observer. Find your peace.